The metallic scrape of the push broom against concrete echoed through the firing range like nails on a chalkboard, except nobody was paying attention to the woman in gray coveralls doing the scraping. Jessica Vance, 5'5", 135 pounds, moved with mechanical precision across Lane 4 of the Naval Special Warfare Command indoor range. Brass casings clinked into her collection bin. The sharp tang of spent gunpowder hung in the air from the morning SEAL training session that had ended 20 minutes ago. It was 07:30 hours. She had 20 minutes left on her shift. The range door banged open. Commander Bradley Hutchinson strode in, 6'1" of pressed uniform and polished confidence. Blonde hair styled with product. Behind him, 12 junior officers fanned out like an entourage. Lieutenant Trevor Nash, 5'11", brown hair, aggressive posture. Petty Officer First Class Derek Stone, 6 feet of muscle and red hair. Lieutenant Junior Grade Philip Carson, blonde and privileged, phone already in his hand. Hutchinson's voice carried the particular tone of someone used to immediate compliance. "How long until you finish, sweetheart?" Jess didn't look up. 20 minutes, sir." Laughter rippled through the group. Hutchinson smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We don't have 20 minutes. Navy SEALs have real work to do. We need this range cleared now." Jess continued sweeping. The motion was rhythmic, economical, not the sloppy back and forth of someone just pushing debris around. Each stroke covered exactly 36 inches. Each pulled brass toward the collection point with minimal wasted effort. In the back of the room, Master Chief Petty Officer Raymond Briggs entered. 47 years old, 5'10", weathered face marked by 28 years of service. He'd come to retrieve a training log. Instead, he stopped, watched. Something was off. Stone stepped forward and kicked Jess's collection bin. Brass casings scattered across the concrete in a metallic spray. 40 officers and enlisted personnel had gathered now, drawn by the commotion. Phones lifted. Recording lights blinked red. "Maybe she doesn't speak English well," Nash said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Let me try slower. Leave, now." Jess knelt, started picking up scattered brass, one casing at a time. Her breathing remained steady. 4 counts in, hold 4, 4 counts out. Tactical breathing, the kind taught to operators managing stress in combat zones. Briggs noticed. He'd seen that breathing pattern in Ramadi, in Kandahar, in a dozen firefights across 2 decades. Not in janitors. Hutchinson picked up her ID badge from where it hung on her cleaning cart. Jessica Vance, GS5. He read it like an insult. "You know what GS5 means? It means you're barely qualified to empty trash cans." Carson's voice carried from the side. "Bet she couldn't even pass the initial PT test." "I'd pay to see her try the obstacle course," Nash added. "Probably cry at the first wall." Jess said nothing. Her hands moved with precision. Brass into bin, brass into bin. Her eyes tracked each piece, but her peripheral vision mapped every person in the room. Counted exits. Identified potential threats. Calculated angles of cover behind concrete shooting stations. Movements she didn't consciously think about anymore. Couldn't stop if she tried. Hutchinson stepped on a brass casing she was reaching for. His boot, polished to regulation shine, held it against the concrete. "Did you serve, or are you just here for the government paycheck?" Jess stood, 5'5" to his 6'1". She made direct eye contact for exactly 3 seconds. Long enough to acknowledge, not long enough to challenge. "I need to finish this, Commander. Range safety regulations require all brass to be collected before—" Stone interrupted. "Range safety regulations? Listen to this. She thinks she knows our regulations." The crowd had grown. 50 people now. The morning shift change brought more personnel through the building. Word was spreading. Phones multiplied. Someone was live streaming. Jess returned to work. Knelt again. continued collecting brass with that same mechanical precision. Hutchinson addressed the crowd, voice carrying. "This is what happens when civilian contractors think they belong in our world. They memorize a few terms from Google and suddenly they're experts." Laughter, agreements, a few uncomfortable glances. Briggs moved closer, positioned himself where he could see Jess's hands, watched how she gripped the push broom when she stood again. Firm knuckles, aligned elbows at efficient angles, stance balanced, weight distributed. That wasn't how civilians held cleaning equipment. That was a fighting grip adapted to an unusual tool. He'd seen it before, in contractors who'd spent years downrange. The kind who could turn anything into a weapon because they'd had to. The kind who couldn't turn off combat awareness even when they were just supposed to be sweeping floors. "Commander," Briggs said, keeping his voice measured, "perhaps we should—" Hutchison cut him off without looking. "Master Chief, this doesn't concern you." Nash picked up an M4 carbine from the nearby weapons rack. Not his assigned weapon, just the closest one. "You know what this is, sweetheart?" Jess glanced at it, returned to sweeping. M4A1 SOPMOD Block 2, 5.56 by 45 mm NATO. That specific weapon has approximately 8,000 rounds through it based on wear patterns on the bolt carrier group. Silence. Complete. Absolute. Then Stone laughed. She Googled it. Everyone knows what an M4 looks like. But three SEALs in the crowd weren't laughing. They'd looked at that rifle. They couldn't see wear patterns on the bolt carrier group from 15 feet away, not without disassembling the weapon. Carson moved his phone closer, zooming in, capturing Jess's face, her reaction, or rather, her lack of one. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Hutchinson asked again. "Who hired you?" "Jessica Vance." Her voice was flat, factual. "Base facilities contractor. Hired 8 months ago through Pacific Coast Services." 8 months, Hutchinson smiled. 8 months of pretending to know things you don't. 8 months of— The mop bucket tipped. Nash's boot had accidentally caught it. Dirty water flooded toward the electrical panels that controlled range lighting and ventilation. Jess moved, not fast, but decisive. She grabbed the bucket mid-tip, redirected the water flow away from the panels with a practiced motion, set the bucket upright, all of it in under 2 seconds. The water pooled harmlessly on the sloped drainage area designed for exactly that purpose. Briggs's eyes narrowed. That wasn't luck. That was training, the kind of instant threat assessment that came from repetition, from muscle memory built through scenarios practiced until they became reflex. "Nice catch," Stone said. "Learned that in janitor school?" Petty Officer Second Class Emily Cho pushed through the crowd. 23 years old, 5'3", black hair in a tight regulation bun. New to the base, still idealistic enough to think speaking up mattered. "Sir, she's just trying to work. Maybe we could give her the 20 minutes she asked for." Hutchinson turned. His expression made Cho step back. "Petty Officer Cho, you're dismissed. Report to my office at 1400 hours." Cho's face went pale. A 1400 meeting with the commander meant paperwork, meant consequences. She glanced at Jess, wanted to say more, couldn't. She left. Jess watched her go, said nothing, returned to collecting brass. The crowd pressed closer. 60 people now. Someone had texted the base group chat. More were coming. Hutchinson picked up Jess's maintenance clipboard, flipped through it, found a notation in precise handwriting. Lane 4 ventilation system, check for carbon buildup after sustained automatic fire drills. He held it up. Sustained automatic fire drills. What civilian knows that terminology? "The maintenance manual specifies," Jess started. "Prove it," Stone interrupted. "Show us the manual." Jess set down her push broom, walked to her cart, retrieved a 3-ring binder, opened it to page 47 without consulting the index. Pointed to paragraph 3, subsection B. Nash snatched the binder, scanned it. The regulation was there, exactly as she'd described. He dropped the binder back on the cart. Lucky guess. But it wasn't a guess. Everyone watching knew it wasn't a guess. Briggs spoke louder. "Commander Hutchison, I've served with contractors in Ramadi. They don't move like her. I think we should verify." "You think what, Master Chief?" Hutchison's voice carried an edge now. "You think our janitor is secretly special forces?" He gestured to the crowd. Laughter followed. Nervous, uncertain, but still laughter. Briggs didn't laugh. "I think we should remember that not everyone who serves wears the uniform where we can see it." Hutchison stepped closer to Jess, close enough that it was deliberate, intimidating. "Last chance, sweetheart. Tell me where you really learned all this. YouTube? Some wannabe tactical course for civilians?" Jess looked at him. Her green eyes held something that made two of the SEALs in the back of the room uncomfortable. Not anger, not fear. Recognition. The look of someone who'd seen violence, real violence, and survived it. She spoke quietly. "I learned it where I learned it, Commander. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have 17 minutes left on my shift, and regulations require this range be cleared of brass before the next training block." Hutchinson's face reddened. The challenge had been issued, and he couldn't let it stand. Nash moved first, stepped between Hutchinson and Jess with the kind of aggressive energy that came from insecurity. He'd graduated BUDS 3 years ago, 2 deployments, 0 combat action. Every evaluation noted the same thing: excellent technical skills, questionable judgment under pressure. He needed to prove something, to someone, maybe to himself. "You know so much about weapons," Nash said, voice carrying to the crowd. "Let's test that." He grabbed a magazine from the equipment table, 30 rounds of 5.56, fully loaded. Tossed it toward Jess's head. Not hard enough to injure, hard enough to startle. Jess's left hand came up, caught the magazine without looking. Her fingers automatically assessed weight distribution, checked the feed lips for damage, verified the follower spring tension. All in the half-second before she registered what she'd done. She set it down on the nearest table, carefully, precisely. 28 rounds, brass case, M855A1 enhanced performance round. The room went quiet. Stone laughed first, had to. The alternative was acknowledging what everyone just saw. She counted the weight, party trick. But Briggs had moved closer, close enough to see Jess's hands, the calluses on her trigger finger, the slight thickening of her right palm, consistent with years of rifle recoil absorption, the small scar on her left thumb that came from speed reloading under stress. He'd seen those markers before, on his hands, on the hands of every operator he'd served with across 28 years, not on janitors. Carson joined Nash and Stone, 25 years old, blonde hair perfectly styled, son of a retired admiral. He'd grown up in base housing, officers' quarters, the kind of privilege that made him think rank was something you inherited rather than earned. "My dad always said," Carson announced, "that civilians who pretend to be military are the worst kind of liars." Jess picked up her mop, started cleaning the water Stone had spilled. Her movements were methodical, almost meditative, the kind of focus that came from using physical work to quiet a mind that wouldn't stop running threat assessments. Nash kicked the mop bucket again. Water sloshed but didn't spill. Jess had been holding it. "Oops," Nash said, not sorry. Performing for the crowd that had swollen to 75 personnel. Morning PT had ended. Word had spread through text chains. This was entertainment now. Stone circled behind her. Not close enough to touch, close enough to violate personal space. "You know what I think? I think you memorized some Wikipedia articles and thought that made you special." Jess wrung out the mop. The motion was efficient, no wasted water, no unnecessary force. The kind of efficiency that came from doing a task 10,000 times until your body knew the optimal movement pattern without conscious thought. Briggs recognized that too. The way operators clean their weapons, the way they packed their gear. Every motion refined through repetition until it became invisible expertise. He tried again. "Commander, I formally recommend we verify this woman's background before—" "Master Chief Briggs," Hutchinson's voice cut like a blade. "You're relieved. Leave this range immediately." Briggs didn't move. "Sir, I'm not comfortable." That wasn't a request. That was an order. The crowd shifted, uncomfortable now. Briggs had 30 decades of service, 2 silver stars, a reputation that made junior officers straighten their spines when he walked past. Dismissing him like this was more than bad leadership. It was stupid. But Briggs left. Had to. He was career military. Orders were orders, even dumb ones. As he walked out, he pulled his phone from his pocket, started recording. Kept the camera pointed down, but audio running. Whatever happened next needed documentation. Jess finished mopping, returned to collecting brass. 14 minutes left on her shift. Nash grabbed an HK-416 from the weapons rack, held it out to her. Here, since you're such an expert, tell me what's wrong with it. Jess glanced at the rifle, returned to her brass collection. Worn sear spring, approximately 87% of factory tolerance, should be replaced within 500 rounds to prevent trigger reset failures. Nash's smile faltered. He'd grabbed that rifle specifically because it had been flagged for maintenance yesterday. The armorer's log noted exactly what Jess just described. That log was locked in the weapons office. She shouldn't know, couldn't know. Lucky guess, Stone said. But his voice lacked conviction. Carson stepped closer, phone still recording. How did you know that? The trigger reset sound when you pulled it from the rack. Jess didn't look up. 52 milliseconds longer than standard, indicates spring fatigue. 52 milliseconds. Nobody could measure that by ear, except Jess just had. Lieutenant Hayes entered from the equipment room. 34 years old, SEAL instructor, 8 years in naval special warfare with 4 combat deployments. He'd heard the commotion, came to investigate. He saw the crowd, saw the phones, saw Jess kneeling on the concrete collecting brass while 3 men stood over her. His expression hardened. "What's happening here?" Hayes asked. Hutchinson turned. "Lieutenant, we're conducting an investigation into unauthorized civilian knowledge of classified systems." "That rifle isn't classified," Hayes said. "And the armorer's log is administrative, not restricted." He looked at Jess. Really looked. Saw what Briggs had seen. The stance, the awareness, the control. "Who are you?" Hayes asked. Not hostile, curious. Jess stood, made eye contact. "Jessica Vance, facilities maintenance." "That's not what I asked." Silence stretched. Jess could end this, could show her ID, could make one phone call that would turn this entire situation inside out. She'd spent 8 months invisible, 8 months without rank, pulling floors, and feeling almost normal. Part of her wanted to stay that way. Another part, the part still angry at herself for surviving when 13 others hadn't, felt she deserved this humiliation. So she said nothing. Picked up another brass casing. Nash made his decision. "Fine. You want to play mysterious. Let's see if your skills match your attitude." He gestured to the disassembled M4 on the maintenance table. "Reassemble that. 2 minutes. If you can do it, we'll apologize and let you finish your shift." Jess looked at the parts. "That's not necessary, Commander." "I'm making it necessary," Hutchinson said, "unless you're admitting you were just pretending." The crowd pressed closer. Phones angled for better shots. Someone was live streaming to Instagram. The view count climbed past 3,000. Jess walked to the table, stood in front of the scattered components. Bolt carrier group, lower receiver, upper receiver, buffer spring, charging handle. 14 major pieces, 37 if you counted small parts. She studied them for 15 seconds. Hayes watched her eyes, tracked how she assessed each component. Professional, clinical, the way armorers worked, the way operators worked, not the way civilians worked. "Ready?" Nash held up his phone timer, made a show of it. 2 minutes, starting now. Jess reached for the lower receiver. Her hands moved. "Before we see what happens next, quick question. Have you ever been underestimated? Ever had someone assume you were less capable because of how you looked or what job you held? Hit that subscribe button because what Jessica does in the next 60 seconds will leave Commander Hutchinson speechless. Jess's hands moved with mechanical precision. Lower receiver, magazine release assembly, bolt catch installed with the specific quarter-turn technique that prevented spring damage. Trigger housing seated with a click that resonated through the silent room. 31 seconds. Upper receiver mated to lower. Pins aligned. Charging handle installed. Bolt carrier group inserted with the cam pin rotated to exactly 7 o'clock position. Not approximate, exact. 58 seconds. Buffer spring, buffer, receiver extension. Castle nut torqued by hand to approximately 40 foot-pounds based purely on resistance feel. 1 minute 19 seconds. Function check, trigger pull, reset, charging handle cycle, bolt release, magazine insertion test. 1 minute 43 seconds. Jess set down the completed rifle. The firing pin was missing. I retrieved it from the M4 in slot 7. The bolt carrier group you provided was from an M16A4. Wrong cam pin profile. I replaced it with the correct M4A1 BCG from slot 12. Nash's timer read 1 minute 43 seconds. The SEAL Armorer qualification standard was 2 minutes. Nobody spoke. The silence lasted 4 seconds. Then Stone's voice cracked it. The stopwatch malfunctioned. Doesn't count. Hayes stepped forward, held up his own phone. I recorded it. 1 minute 43 seconds. She's telling the truth about the parts, too. He walked to slot 7. Empty firing pin channel. Slot 12. Missing bolt carrier group. She identified components from 15 feet away while assembling a different weapon. Carson's live stream chat exploded. 4,000 viewers, then 6,000. Using. Comments flooded past. No way that's real. This has to be staged. Who is she? Hutchinson's face had gone red. Not embarrassment, anger. The kind that came from being challenged in front of subordinates, in front of cameras, in front of a permanent record that would follow him forever. Anyone can learn that on YouTube, he said. Jess picked up her cleaning cart. 11 minutes left on her shift. She'd done what they asked. Time to finish her work and disappear back into the night shift where she belonged. Wait, Nash blocked her path. Do it again, faster, blindfolded. That's enough, Hayes said. She proved her point. Let her work. But Hutchinson saw an opportunity, saw a way to reframe the narrative. If she failed the next test, the first one became luck. The story became about a civilian who got cocky and fell apart under real pressure. Do it, Hutchinson ordered, blindfolded, and name every part as you install it. Jess looked at him. Her green eyes held that expression again, the one that made experienced SEALs uncomfortable, like she was calculating not just what he said, but what he meant, what he feared, what drove him to need this public validation. Commander, I respectfully decline. I've completed the challenge. I'd like to finish my shift. And this one? Stone brought out an HK-416. More complex than the M4. Different takedown procedure. Tighter tolerances. Prove the first time wasn't memorized routine. The crowd had hit 80 personnel now. Someone had posted to the base Facebook group. Off-duty sailors were driving back. This was the most entertainment Naval Special Warfare Command Coronado had seen in months. Hayes moved between Jess and the antagonists. Commander Hutchinson, as range safety officer, I'm recommending thee clear this space and return to normal operations. Your recommendation is noted and overruled. Hutchinson's voice carried command authority, the kind that ended discussions. Miss Vance, you have a choice. Complete this demonstration, or I call base security and have them investigate how a civilian contractor obtained detailed knowledge of military weapons systems. Threat delivered. Crowd watching. Phones recording. Jess set down her cleaning cart, walked to the table. Hayes pulled off his patrol cap, handed it to her. For the blindfold. It's clean. She took it. Their eyes met. Hayes saw something flicker across her face. Gratitude, maybe. Or recognition that at least one person in this room understood that what was happening had crossed from testing into cruelty. Jess folded the cap into a blindfold, tied it behind her head. The room disappeared into darkness. Stone field-stripped the HK-416, scattered parts across the table, mixed in components from other weapons, added a wrong magazine spring, swapped the firing pin with an undersized version that wouldn't function. Hayes saw it, said nothing. Briggs would have stopped it, but Briggs was gone. Ready? Nash's voice, close. Start. Jess's hands found the table edge, swept across the parts, fingers reading metal like braille. Lower receiver. She picked it up, felt the weight. Lower receiver assembly. HK proprietary design. Design. Magazine release button, left side. Her fingers moved. Installing parts with the certainty of someone who'd done this in pitch darkness, in vehicles, in safe houses, in conditions where light meant compromise and compromise meant death. Trigger assembly. Modified 2-stage, 4.5-pound pull. She installed it by feel. Perfect alignment. The crowd pressed closer. Silence absolute, except for Jess's voice and the click of metal on metal. Upper receiver, monolithic rail design, bolt carrier group, rotating bolt head, gas piston system, not direct impingement. 51 seconds. She paused. Fingers traced the firing pin channel. Wrong size. She set down the assembled upper receiver, reached across the table, found the parts Stone had mixed in, located the correct firing pin in under 3 seconds. This firing pin is from an M4 platform, incorrect for HK-416, swapping for proper component. 1 minute 18 seconds. Assembly complete. She performed function check by sound. The mechanical clicks told her everything she needed. Chamber operation, trigger reset, bolt lockup. She removed the blindfold, set down the completed weapon. This rifle has a worn sear spring at approximately 87% tolerance, should be replaced within 500 rounds. She pointed without looking at it. And the gas piston seal is degraded. I can hear the pressure leak during bolt cycling. Hayes picked up the rifle, checked the armorer's log on his tablet. She's right. This weapon is flagged for both issues, due for maintenance after next range session. The live stream hit 12,000 viewers. Nash grabbed the rifle, checked it himself. Everything perfect. Every part correct despite the sabotage, despite the blindfold, despite the impossible complexity. "Who are you?" Carson asked. His phone still recording, but his voice had changed. Not mocking now, genuine question. Jess didn't answer. Picked up her cleaning cart. 9 minutes left on her shift. "No," Hutchinson blocked her path. "You don't get to show off and walk away. You're hiding something. I want to know what." "I'm a facilities contractor trying to do my job, Commander." "Bullshit." Hutchinson grabbed her arm, not gently. "Nobody handles weapons like that without training, professional training. So either you're former military lying on your background check, or you're something worse." Jess looked at his hand on her arm. Her expression didn't change, but something shifted in the room, a tension that made Hayes step forward instinctively. "Release her arm," Hayes said quietly. Hutchinson ignored him. "I'm calling base security. We'll see what they find when they run your real background." "My background check cleared 8 months ago," Jess said. Her voice remained level, but her breathing had changed. 4 counts in, hold 4, 4 counts out. Managing something, controlling something. Stone pulled out his phone. "I'm recording this for evidence. When they prove you're lying about your credentials, this video shows you refused to cooperate." Petty Officer Cho pushed back through the crowd. She disobeyed the dismissal order. Couldn't stay. "Stay away. Commander, you're hurting her." Hutchinson's grip tightened. "Cha, you're on report. Get out." Hayes moved closer. "Sir, release her, now." Or what, Lieutenant? You'll defend a civilian contractor over a superior officer? I'll defend anyone being handled roughly without cause. Hayes's voice carried the weight of combat experience, of lines he wouldn't cross. Let go. Hutchinson released Jess's arm, but stepped closer instead, invading space, using his 6'1" height against her 5'5" frame, intimidation through physical presence. Here's what's going to happen, Hutchinson announced to the crowd. Miss Vance is going to complete one more demonstration. Live fire, 200 meters, moving targets, standard qualification course. When she fails, we'll have proof that her earlier performance was luck or setup. Petty Officer Reynolds entered. Rangemaster, 41 years old, 20 years as a Navy gunner's mate. He'd heard enough. Commander, I can't authorize live fire for unauthorized personnel. Regulations specifically. I'm authorizing it. Set up the course. Sir, if there's an incident, my certification. That's an order, Petty Officer. Reynolds looked at Jess, then at Hayes, then at the 80 people crowded into a space designed for 20. Everything about this violated protocol. But orders were orders. He walked to the control panel, initialized the pop-up target system. 200 meters, 8 targets, 25-second par time. Seal pistol qualification standard. Hutchinson pulled a Beretta M9 from the ready rack, handed it to Jess. Show us what you've got, sweetheart, or admit you've been lying this whole time. Jess accepted the weapon. Her hands performed immediate safety check. Magazine removed, chamber clear, slide function, trigger reset. The movements were automatic, unconscious, muscle memory from thousands of repetitions. She looked at the pistol, really looked at it. For the first time since the range door opened 90 minutes ago, her composure cracked. Just for a second, just enough for Hayes to see. She didn't want to hold this weapon, didn't want to do this. But backing down now meant questions, meant investigation, meant her cover torn away, and 8 months of careful invisibility destroyed. Jess loaded the magazine, racked the slide. What's the course of fire? Reynolds explained. 50 rounds, multiple distances, moving targets. Headshots required on 4, center mass on 4, 25-second standard. Jess stepped to the firing line. The crowd held its breath. She raised the pistol. The first target popped at 7 meters. Jess fired twice, center mass, both rounds within a 2-inch group before the target fully extended. Second target, 15 meters, headshot, single round. The steel silhouette rang like a bell. Her movements were economical, no wasted motion, no theatrical stance, just efficient violence delivered with the precision of someone who'd done this when lives depended on it. Third and fourth targets appeared simultaneously, 25 meters, both moving lateral. She engaged left target first, 2 rounds center mass while tracking right, transitioned. 1 round headshot on the moving target. The shot was impossible. Moving target at 25 meters with a pistol. Even SEAL instructors missed that shot. Jess didn't miss. Reynolds watched his timer. 18 seconds elapsed. 4 targets remaining. Fifth target, 7 meters. Popped while Jess was transitioning between positions. She fired during movement, didn't stop, didn't plant, just pulled the trigger while her body was in motion. Perfect center mass hit. Hayes had stopped breathing. He'd trained thousands of shooters, watched Olympic-level marksmen, worked with DevGru operators who could thread needles at 100 meters. This was different. This wasn't trained skill. This was something built into nervous system. The way predators moved, the way apex operators moved. Sixth target, 15 meters. She fired 3 rounds. First 2 center mass, third through the neck. Switching impact zones mid-string without adjustment time. 22 seconds. 2 targets left. They popped together, 25 meters, both moving opposite directions, both requiring headshots per the qualification standard. Jess fired 4 times in 1.2 seconds. Left target, right target, left, right, alternating so fast the sounds almost merged. 23.4 seconds total. She lowered the weapon, conducted press check, magazine removed, slide locked back, safety verified, placed the pistol on the table with muzzle downrange. Reynolds triggered the target retrieval. Steel plates rolled forward on automated tracks. The crowd surged to see the damage. 50 rounds fired, 50 holes in targets, 0 misses. Every shot placed within the scoring zones. 4 headshots perfectly centered. 6 shots so tightly grouped they overlapped. Nash picked up 1 target. The 2 center mass shots had created a single elongated hole. This isn't possible. Nobody shoots this clean under time pressure. I just watched it happen, Hayes said. We all did. Carson's live stream had hit 22,000 viewers. Comments scrolled too fast to read. Someone had shared it to a military Reddit forum, then Twitter, then a Facebook group for special operations veterans. People were starting to recognize something. Stone checked the target at 25 meters, the one she'd hit while moving. You fired this shot mid-stride. I saw you. Your foot wasn't planted. Hasty position, Jess said quietly. Forward momentum compensates for vertical instability if you time the shot between heartbeats. Silence. That's level 2 CQB doctrine, Hayes said. That's not taught to civilians. That's not even taught to regular military. That's special operations training. Hutchinson's face had gone from red to pale. She memorized the technique, read it somewhere. You can't memorize that. Hayes picked up the target. This is muscle memory. This is thousands of hours of repetition. This is professional. Jess started walking toward her cleaning cart. 6 minutes left on her shift. Maybe if she just left. Maybe if she disappeared before this went further. Stop, Hutchinson's voice cracked. You're not going anywhere until you explain how a janitor shoots. Like a Tier 1 operator. Jess stopped, didn't turn around. I need to finish my shift, Commander. Forget your shift. I want answers. I don't have any to give you. Stone moved to block her path. Rifle next. Let's see if you're as good with long guns. That's enough, Hayes said. She's completed every challenge. Let her go. But Hutchinson saw his authority slipping, saw the crowd's expressions changing from entertainment to confusion to something else. Respect, maybe? Or recognition that they'd been wrong about who this woman was. He couldn't let that stand. M110 SAS, Hutchinson ordered Reynolds, 400 meters, wind at 8 knots from northwest, set up the targets. Reynolds hesitated. Sir, that's a designated marksman weapon. It requires— I know what it requires. Set it up. Hayes stepped between them. Commander, this has gone beyond testing. You're using government ammunition and range time for personal— Are you refusing a direct order, Lieutenant? Hayes's jaw tightened. He outranked Nash, Stone, and Carson, but Hutchinson was Commander, 05. Hayes was 03. The math was simple and brutal. No, sir. Reynolds brought out the M110, semi-automatic sniper system, 15.3 pounds loaded, powerful enough to drop targets at 800 meters in trained hands. He handed it to Jess. She accepted it. Her hands automatically performed function check, bolt operation, magazine seating, scope clarity, then she paused, looked at the elevation turret. This scope is zeroed for 300 meters, not 400. Elevation needs 4.2 MOA adjustment for that distance with M118LR ammunition at this altitude and barometric pressure. Reynolds pulled out his maintenance log, checked the last zero confirmation. How did you know the zero distance? It's not marked on the scope. The parallax setting is at 300, and the elevation turret is at factory zero position. Jess made the adjustment, didn't count clicks, just turned until her fingers felt the right resistance. 4.2 MOA. Reynolds verified with a measuring tool. Exact. Hayes moved closer to Jess, spoke quietly so only she could hear. You don't have to do this. I'll back you if you refuse. I appreciate that, Lieutenant, but if I stop now, it gets worse. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly as she checked the rifle. Better to finish it. She walked to the firing line. 400 meters downrange, Reynolds activated 5 steel targets, standard silhouettes, 12 inches wide, 18 inches tall. They'd shift position every 3 seconds. 5 shots, 5 targets, Hutchinson announced. Miss one, and we call base security to investigate your background thoroughly. The threat was explicit now. Comply or face consequences. Jess took position. Not prone, not using the bipod, standing with hasty sling support. One hand gripping the rifle, other hand steadying through the sling wrapped around her forearm. Hold on, stop scrolling. What you're about to witness is going to change everything. Commander Hutchinson thinks he's caught a liar. He has no idea what's coming. Make sure you're subscribed. Bed. Because the revelation in the next part will shock everyone on that base. Jess controlled her breathing. 4 counts in, hold, 4 counts out. The rifle steadied against her shoulder, supported by bone structure, not muscle tension. Wind at 8 knots, right to left. Approximately 2.1 MOA correction at this distance. Temperature, 72 degrees. Humidity, 48%. Barometric pressure, standard. Variables she didn't consciously calculate anymore. Her brain just processed and adjusted. First shot. The rifle cracked. 400 meters downrange, the steel target rang. Center mass hit. Second shot. 3 seconds later. Target had moved 8 inches left. She compensated. Another hit. Third shot. Wind gusted to 11 knots. She waited half a heartbeat for the gust to pass. Fired. Hit. Fourth shot. Target appeared while she was exhaling. She finished the breath, fired at the bottom of her respiratory pause. Hit. Fifth shot. She fired while the target was still rising into position. Anticipated its path, led it by 6 inches. The round caught it as it locked into place. 8 seconds total. 5 shots, 5 hits. She lowered the rifle, safed it, set it down with the precision of someone who'd handled weapons so long they were extensions of her body. Reynolds ran the targets forward, every hit within a 4-inch circle. At 400 meters, standing, wind, moving targets. A SEAL sniper in the crowd, Petty Officer Dixon, 8 years on teams, designated marksman instructor, stepped forward, examined the targets, looked at Jess, looked at Hayes. "I've been a sniper for 8 years, Dixon said. "I can't do that. Nobody I've trained with can do that standing." He paused. "Except maybe guys from special missions units, the ones who don't officially exist." The crowd had gone completely silent. 80 people watching, 22,000 on live stream. Nobody laughing now. Nash backed toward the door. "I didn't know. We were just—" Hutchinson grabbed Jess's arm again, rougher this time. "Who are you? Who really are you?" Jess's reaction was instantaneous, pure reflex. Joint manipulation. Break the grip. Create distance. Assume defensive posture. Movement so fast 3 people missed it on camera. She stood 4 feet away. Hutchinson held his wrist. Her technique had been perfect, painful but not injuring. Exactly enough force to escape, nothing extra. The entire crowd stepped back. "Don't touch me, Commander." Jess's voice was different now, harder. The voice of someone used to giving orders in life or death situations. "I asked you once already." During the grip break, her coverall sleeve had ridden up. Visible on her left forearm, a burn scar, puckered tissue from an explosion or fire, and the edge of a black tactical watch, Garmin Tactic 7, the kind issued to Special Operations Forces. Hayes saw it, so did Dixon, so did 12 other veterans in the crowd who knew what that watch meant. "Is that a trident?" Cho whispered. She'd moved close enough to see Jess's inner forearm, partially visible under the sleeve, ink lines forming the distinctive Navy SEAL trident. Jess quickly adjusted her sleeve, but too late. Cameras had caught it. Screenshots were already being analyzed on Reddit threads. "Tally marks," another SEAL said. "I saw tally marks under the trident, 13 of them." 13 marks. SEAL tradition. One mark for each combat deployment, or each classified operation, or each team member lost. Hutchinson was breathing hard, wrist still sore, pride shattered. "You assaulted me. Everyone saw it. That's grounds for arrest." "You grabbed her first, sir," Cho said. "I recorded it." Hayes stepped between them. "Commander, I recommend we stop this immediately and contact base security for proper identification verification. I'm in command of this range, Lieutenant, and I'm the safety officer. What's happening here has violated 7 range protocols and at least 3 regulations regarding civilian personnel. I'm formally documenting this." Stone's phone rang. He answered, listened. His face went white. "Commander, you need to see this." He held up his phone. The live stream chat had exploded with comments from verified military accounts, special operations veterans, people who'd served in classified units. "That's Night Reaper's technique on the pistol transitions. Those rifle holds are task force training. I'd recognize them anywhere. Check her left ear. That's where JSOC operators get their unit tattoos." Hutchinson grabbed the phone, read the comments, looked at Jess, back at the comments. "Night Reaper," he said quietly. "That's a call sign, a Tier 1 call sign." Jess closed her eyes. 8 months of invisibility. 8 months of peace. Gone in 90 minutes. "We need to call base security," Carson said, "right now, before this gets more complicated." Hutchinson pulled out his radio, but before he could transmit, the range door opened. Rear Admiral Janet Keller walked in. 51 years old, 5'7", silver hair in a sharp bob. Former Navy F-18 pilot with 3 combat cruises. Base commander. 2 stars on her collar. Behind her, 2 base security personnel. The entire room snapped to attention. "Someone," Admiral Keller said, voice cutting through the silence, "want to explain why I'm watching a live stream of my personnel conducting unauthorized weapons demonstrations?" Nobody spoke. Keller looked at Jess, still in coveralls, still holding herself in that defensive posture, then at Hutchinson, then at the crowd of 80 personnel who should have been working. "Commander Hutchinson, my office, now." She turned to security. "Chief Rodriguez, I need a full background verification on—" She looked at Jess. "Your name?" "Jessica Vance, ma'am." "On Jessica Vance, full clearance check, immediately." Rodriguez pulled out his tablet, started typing. His expression changed after 10 seconds, then changed again. "Admiral," he said slowly, "we have a problem." Rodriguez stared at his tablet like it had just shown him classified nuclear codes. "Admiral, her facility access badge shows GS5 civilian contractor, standard background check. But her security clearance in the system?" He turned the screen toward Keller. "Top secret / sensitive compartmented information with 3 compartmented accesses." S's. Keller's eyebrows rose. "A janitor has TSCI clearance?" "It gets stranger, ma'am. When I try to access her full personnel file, the system requires additional authorization. It's flagged restricted access, command level only." Hutchinson found his voice. "She's a spy. She infiltrated the base with stolen credentials." "Or," Hayes said quietly, "her credentials are real, and there's a reason they're restricted." Rodriguez kept scrolling. His frown deepened. "I'm entering her service number to verify identity." He looked at Jess. "I need biometric confirmation, fingerprint." Jess didn't move. "Chief, I'm not authorized to provide biometric data without proper—" "That wasn't a request." Keller's voice carried command authority. "Fingerprint, now, or I'll have security detain you until we sort this out." The room held its breath. Jess could refuse, could lawyer up, could make this exponentially more complicated. Instead, she walked to Rodriguez, placed her right thumb on the scanner attached to his tablet. The screen flashed. Processing. Then red alert bars appeared. Alert. Personnel file restricted. Contact JSOC personnel command for access authorization. Secondary prompt appeared. Subject identity confirmed. Current status, active. Last unit assignment, redacted. Rodriguez looked up. Admiral, I've never seen this before. The system confirms she exists, but won't tell me anything else. Security level? Keller asked. Doesn't specify, just shows above theater command clearance. Rodriguez sounded confused, frightened even. That's higher than most officers on this base. Nash had backed against the wall. JSOC, that's Joint Special Operations Command. That's Delta and DevGru and task forces that don't have names. Dixon finished. The SEAL sniper looked at Jess with new understanding. The units that do things nobody talks about. Carson's live stream was being shut down. His phone showed error messages. Someone with authority had killed the feed. 24,000 viewers suddenly disconnected. Stone's hands shook. Commander, I think we made a mistake. A really bad mistake. Keller pulled out her phone. I'm calling JSOC Personnel Command directly. She dialed a number from memory. Put it on speaker. The room was silent enough to hear electrical hum from the overhead lights. 3 rings. A male voice answered. Professional. Clipped. JSOC Personnel Command. Colonel Webb speaking. Authentication required. This is Rear Admiral Janet Keller, Base Commander, Naval Special Warfare Command, Coronado. Authentication code Kilo 73 Delta 9. Pause. Keyboard sounds. Then Webb's voice changed, sharper, urgent. Admiral, is Night Reaper safe? The room erupted in whispers. Night Reaper? The call sign from the live stream comments? The one operators had recognized? Keller looked at Jess. Night Reaper? Jess closed her eyes. Her shoulders dropped half an inch. The posture of someone whose worst fear just materialized. Admiral, Webb said again, voice commanding attention. I asked if Night Reaper is safe. Is she injured? Is she under duress? She's... Keller studied Jess. The coveralls, the cleaning cart, the woman who just outshot every qualified operator on her base. She's fine, Colonel. Can you explain? Put her on the phone, now. Keller handed the phone to Jess. Jess took it, turned away from the crowd. Her voice dropped to barely audible. Reaper. Webb's voice carried clearly even from the phone speaker. Status. Compromised. No hostiles. Situation contained. Do you need extraction? Negative. Stand by. The line went quiet, but didn't disconnect. Jess stood with her back to 80 people. Her free hand gripped the edge of a table, knuckles white. Hutchison found his voice. Admiral, this is obviously some kind of... Commander, be quiet. Keller's voice could have cut steel. Everyone not essential to this situation, clear this range immediately. Nobody moved. That was an order. Now. The crowd began to disperse. Slowly, reluctantly. Phones still recording until security personnel physically took them. Within 2 minutes, only Keller, Hutchison, Hayes, Rodriguez, and the 3 antagonists remained. Cho refused to leave. Ma'am, I'm staying, respectfully. Keller looked at the young petty officer. Saw determination. Saw loyalty. Fine, stay quiet. Webb came back on the line. Admiral Keller, I'm authorizing limited disclosure to your immediate command staff. What I'm about to tell you is classified secret. Only personnel with confirmed need to know may be present. Understood. I have 7 personnel here, including Commander Vance. Acceptable. Webb paused. Lieutenant Commander Jessica Vance, call sign Night Reaper. 12 years of service. 9 years with Joint Special Operations Command, attached to multiple task forces I cannot name over unsecure line. She holds the Defense Superior Service Medal, 2 Silver Stars, 4 Bronze Stars with Valor Device, and 3 Purple Hearts. Nash sat down heavily on a bench. Stone's face had gone gray. Carson looked like he might vomit. Webb continued. Night Reaper was team leader for classified operations across 5 theaters. She is credited with 47 confirmed high-value target eliminations and 13 successful hostage rescue operations. Hayes had known, had suspected, but hearing it confirmed still hit like a physical blow. In 2022, Webb said, voice harder now, her team was ambushed during Operation Buried Dagger in Afghanistan. All 13 team members killed in action, except Commander Vance. She held position, wounded, until Quick Reaction Force arrived. She received her 2nd Silver Star for that action. Jess's shoulders shook. Just slightly. Just enough for Cho to notice. After the ambush, Webb continued, Commander Vance declined medical retirement, but requested non-operational assignment. She has severe PTSD and survivor's guilt. Working in facilities maintenance was her choice. She wanted to serve without carrying a weapon. We approved the request and provided cover employment. Employment while she remains on active duty status. Keller's expression shifted from confusion to horror. She's been here 8 months. 8 months cleaning our buildings while she couldn't finish. While you treated her like she didn't matter, Webb finished. Yes, Admiral. Now I need to speak with whoever compromised her cover. Keller looked at Hutchinson. Commander. Hutchinson approached the phone like it was a live grenade. Colonel Webb, this is Commander Bradley Hutchinson. Commander, you forced a Tier 1 operator with diagnosed PTSD to handle weapons and engage in combat demonstrations for entertainment. Is that accurate? Sir, I didn't know she was. Answer the question. Yes or no? Pause. Yes, sir. Did you physically grab her arm against her will? Longer pause. Yes, sir. Did you threaten her with security investigation to coerce compliance? I was trying to verify. Yes or no, Commander? Yes, sir. Webb's voice went cold. Admiral Keller, I'm formally recommending Commander Hutchinson receive official reprimand for conduct unbecoming. I'm also recommending immediate reassignment away from special warfare units. Concur, Keller said immediately. Commander Hutchinson, you're relieved of your current position effective immediately. Report to my office at 1400 hours. Yes, ma'am. Hutchinson's voice was barely a whisper. Webb wasn't finished. Lieutenants Nash and Carson, Petty Officer Stone, you participated in this harassment. You'll each receive written reprimands in your permanent service records. All 3 spoke simultaneously. Yes, sir. Admiral, I'm sending Commander Vance's unclassified service record to your secure tablet. You'll understand why we protected her identity. The line clicked. File transfer notification appeared on Keller's device. She opened it, started scrolling. Her expression changed with every line. Operation Neptune's Thunder. Yemen, 2019. 6 hostages rescued from Al-Qaeda compound. 22 enemy KIA. 0 friendly casualties. Team leader, Lieutenant Commander Vance. She scrolled further. Operation Silent Echo. Syria, 2020. High-value target eliminated. Intelligence recovered, prevented planned attack on U.S. Embassy. Single operator infiltration, Night Reaper conducted solo. Hayes moved closer, read over her shoulder. She went in alone to a target compound in Syria? Multiple solo operations listed here. Keller kept reading. This is extraordinary. This is beyond anything I've seen outside of the most elite units in our military. Hayes finished. Rodriguez had pulled up the live stream recording before it was shut down, watched Jess's shooting, replayed the weapons assembly. Admiral, every Special Operations Forum online is analyzing this footage. They're identifying her techniques, recognizing training that isn't taught outside of specific units. Keller handed her phone back to Jess. Commander Vance, Colonel Webb wants to speak with you again. Jess took the phone. Ma'am, Reaper, I need to know if you want to file formal charges. What happened today constitutes harassment and unlawful detention. Attention at minimum. Jess looked at Hutchinson, at Nash, Stone, and Carson. They looked terrified. ashamed, small. Negative, sir. They didn't know. I'd like to handle this informally. You're certain? I'm certain. Then I'm leaving the situation in Admiral Keller's hands. But Reaper, your cover is blown. You can't go back to maintenance work. We need to discuss your next assignment. Yes, sir. I'll call you tonight at 2100 hours. Secure line. Understood. The call ended. Jess handed the phone back to Keller. Stood at something approximating attention despite the coveralls, despite the cleaning cart still sitting in the corner, despite everything. Keller looked at her for a long moment, then called the room to attention. Attention on deck. Everyone snapped to position. Even Hutchinson, even the three antagonists who'd spent 90 minutes humiliating the woman who'd done more for their country than they'd ever accomplish. Commander Vance, Keller said formally, on behalf of this command, I apologize for the treatment you received. You deserved better. You deserve better. Jess's voice was quiet. Thank you, ma'am. You're dismissed from facilities duties effective immediately. We'll discuss your next assignment after Colonel Webb's call. Until then, you're on administrative leave. Yes, ma'am. Keller turned to the others. Dismissed. Except you three. She pointed at Nash, Stone, and Carson. You stay. We're going to have a very long conversation about respect and judgment. The room cleared. Cho walked beside Jess toward the door. Neither spoke. What was there to say? As they reached the exit, Hayes caught up. Commander, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. I should have stopped it earlier. Jess looked at him. You tried, Lieutenant. That's more than most did. Still, you shouldn't have had to prove yourself. Not like that. Maybe I needed to. Jess pushed open the door. Sunlight streamed in. Maybe I needed to remember who I was before I could figure out who I'm supposed to be now. She walked out. Cho followed. The door closed behind them. Inside, Hutchinson stood in front of Admiral Keller, waiting for judgment, knowing his career had just taken a turn it would never recover from. All because he'd underestimated a woman in coveralls holding a mop. 3 hours later, Jess sat in a small conference room adjacent to Admiral Keller's office. She'd changed from coveralls into her Navy service uniform. Lieutenant Commander rank insignia on the collar, ribbons on her chest, silver star with oak leaf cluster, bronze star with 4 oak leaf clusters and V device, purple heart with 2 oak leaf clusters. The fabric felt foreign after 8 months of cotton coveralls. Cho had stayed with her, refused to leave even when Jess said she'd be fine alone. The young petty officer sat across the table, hands folded, protective in a way that reminded Jess of her team, the family she'd lost 19 months ago. A knock on the door. Hayes entered with Master Chief Briggs. The older man had returned once he heard what happened. His weathered face showed no satisfaction at being right, just concern. Commander Vance.
A stance, Briggs said. Permission to speak freely. Granted, Master Chief. I tried to stop it. Should have tried harder. Jess shook her head. You were ordered to leave. You followed orders. That's what we do. Still feels like I failed you. You didn't. Jess's voice was firm. You saw what others missed. You tried to warn them. That's more than enough. Hayes set a tablet on the table. The footage is everywhere. Someone downloaded the live stream before it was killed. Reddit, Twitter, Facebook groups for veterans. 20 different special operations forums are analyzing your technique frame by frame. He pulled up a thread. Comments scrolled past. That's Force Recon transition drill on the pistol work. Those rifle holds are pure SMU training. I served with JSOC for 6 years. I recognize those patterns. Another comment stood out. Night Reaper was a legend. Heard stories about her in Afghanistan. Didn't think she was real. Jess closed her eyes. I wanted to be invisible. You were, Cho said quietly. For 8 months, you were invisible. That's longer than most people could manage. The door opened again. Admiral Keller entered with Rodriguez and 2 other officers Jess didn't recognize. One wore Army dress uniform with Colonel rank, Special Forces tab, Ranger tab, Halo wings. The other was Navy, Captain, SEAL Trident prominent. Keller gestured to the Army officer. Commander Vance, this is Colonel Marcus Webb. He drove down from Bragg when he heard what happened. Jess stood. came to attention. Sir. Webb was 49 years old, 6'2", 200 pounds, completely bald by choice. Scars on his hands, scars on his neck, partially hidden by his collar. He'd been downrange, multiple times. The kind of downrange that left permanent marks. At ease, Reaper. Webb's voice was the same one from the phone. Command presence built over decades. Sit down. We need to talk. Everyone sat. Webb pulled a folder from his briefcase. Actual paper. Old school. Classified cover sheet on top. First things first, Webb said. Is everyone in this room cleared for what we're about to discuss? Keller nodded. I've verified clearances. Everyone here has need to know. Webb opened the folder. Commander Vance, I need to brief your chain of command on why you're here. Why we put you in cover status. Some of this you know, some you don't. He looked at her. Are you comfortable with me disclosing your psychological evaluations? Jess hesitated, then nodded. They deserve to know, sir. Webb turned to Keller. Operation Buried Dagger, March 22, 2022. Commander Vance led a 13-person team into Kunar Province, Afghanistan. Mission was to capture or kill a Taliban commander planning attacks on Kabul. He pulled out a map. Red circles marked positions. Intel was compromised. The team walked into an ambush. 50-plus hostiles with prepared positions, RPGs, heavy machine guns, mortars. Hayes leaned forward, combat veteran recognizing combat details. Commander Vance's team was pinned in a valley with no cover. She called immediate fire mission, coordinated CAS from 2 Apache helicopters while simultaneously stoically directing her team to the only defensible position, a compound 800 meters away under direct fire. Webb's voice stayed level, professional, but his jaw tightened. 11 team members were killed during the movement. 2 more died defending the compound. Commander Vance held that position alone for 19 hours. Wounded, low on ammunition, she killed 17 confirmed hostiles during that time. Briggs made a sound, not quite a gasp, close. When QRF finally broke through, they found her still conscious, still armed, still defending her fallen teammates. Webb closed the folder. She refused evacuation until every body was recovered. Personally helped load for team onto the helicopters. Silence filled the room. Heavy, oppressive. The psychological evaluation afterward showed severe PTSD, survivor's guilt, recurrent nightmares, flashbacks when handling weapons. Webb looked at Jess. She was recommended for medical retirement with full honors. She refused. I couldn't leave, Jess said quietly. They died serving. I needed to keep serving. For them. Webb nodded. She requested assignment away from operational units. Wanted to continue serving, but in a capacity that didn't require her to lead troops into combat. We discussed options. She chose facilities maintenance work. Keller frowned. Why maintenance specifically? Jess answered. My team and I used to clean our gear together every night. Weapons, equipment. It was our ritual. When they died, I couldn't hold a weapon without seeing their faces. But I could still clean. It was the only part of that ritual I could still do. Cho's eyes glistened. She blinked rapidly. Webb continued. We provided cover employment. Created a background that would pass standard checks but protect her real identity. The goal was to let her heal, to let her feel normal, to give her space away from the weight of who she'd been. And then we destroyed that in 90 minutes, Hayes said. You didn't know, Jess said. None of you knew. We should have treated you with respect regardless, Briggs countered. Knowing who you are shouldn't change that. You deserved respect as a human being doing a job. Webb pulled out another document. Her clearances remained active in case of national emergency requiring her expertise. But she wasn't supposed to be tested. Wasn't supposed to be put in situations where her training would surface. He looked at Keller. Commander Hutchinson forced her into exactly the scenarios we'd spent 8 months helping her avoid. The Navy captain spoke for the first time. I'm Captain Reeves, SEAL Team 7 Commander. I've been reviewing the footage. He looked at Jess. Your shooting, your weapons handling, that's not just training. That's recent proficiency. Have you been maintaining your skills? Jess shook her head. I haven't touched a weapon outside of work requirements for 8 months. Until today. That's not possible. Skills degrade without practice. Muscle memory from 12 years of daily training. 10,000 repetitions make actions permanent. Commander Vance has performed those drills more than 10,000 times. Her body remembers, even when she doesn't want it to. Reeves pulled up footage on his tablet, the pistol qualification. This shot here, moving target at 25 meters. You fired while transitioning between positions, didn't plant your feet. That's advanced CQB technique taught only to units that don't officially exist, Webb finished. Yes, Captain, that's exactly where she learned it. Briggs cleared his throat. Sir, with respect, what happens now? Her cover is blown. Every operator forum online knows who she is. Some are posting photos they claim are from deployed environments. Webb's expression hardened. Those photos are classified. We're working with DoD to have them removed. But yes, her cover is burned. She can't return to maintenance work. He looked at Jess. Which brings us to your future. Jess straightened in her chair. Sir, you have options. First option, medical retirement. Full benefits, full honors. Your PTSD diagnosis qualifies you. No one would question it. And option 2, return to JSOC operational status. Multiple task forces want you back. They've been asking for months. Jess's hands gripped the table edge. No, sir, I can't. I can't lead another team. I can't be responsible for more lives. Understood. Which brings us to option 3. Webb slid a paper across the table. Stay here. Naval Special Warfare Command, Special Operations Liaison and Instructor. You'd mentor SEAL candidates, advise on training protocols, serve as subject matter expert. No combat deployments, no team leadership, no weapons use unless you choose to. Jess read the document. I'd be teaching, advising, sharing 12 years of knowledge with the next generation. Webb leaned forward. And, if you want, you could still do maintenance work sometimes. Unconventional, but we'd allow it. Why would I want to keep cleaning? Because you said it keeps you grounded. Because it reminds you that every job matters. Webb's voice softened. Because healing isn't linear, Reaper. If mopping floors helps you manage your PTSD, then mop floors. Just do it while also sharing your expertise with people who need to learn from you. Keller nodded. I'd support that assignment. This base needs someone like you. Someone who understands operational reality. Someone who's been there. Jess looked at the paper, at the people around the table, at Cho, who'd stayed beside her through everything. What about them? Jess asked. Hutchinson, Nash, Stone, Carson. What happens to them? Webb's expression went cooled. Commander Hutchinson receives formal letter of reprimand in his permanent record. Forfeiture of 2 months' pay, removed from promotion consideration for minimum 2 years, mandatory leadership retraining, reassignment to non-leadership administrative position. And the others? Written reprimands, mandatory sensitivity and inclusion training. They'll serve 30 days in base community service working alongside civilian contractors. Maybe they'll learn to see them as people. Cho spoke up. Commander Vance showed them more grace than they deserved. She could have pressed charges, could have destroyed them.
Their careers. That's why she's an officer worth following, Briggs said. Real leaders don't need to prove their power by destroying others. Hayes pulled up another screen on his tablet. The response online has been mixed. Some people are angry at Hutchinson. Some are defending him, saying he couldn't have known. But there's a third group saying something different. He turned the tablet to show comments. This shouldn't have happened regardless of who she was. Respect people based on their humanity, not their credentials. I'm a civilian contractor on a Navy base. I've been treated like trash for years. Maybe this will change things. Every janitor, every cook, every maintenance worker deserves respect. They're the reason bases function. Jess read the comments.
felt something shift in her chest. It wasn't just about me. It never is, Webb said. Your situation exposed a larger problem. How military personnel treat civilians. How people with rank treat people without it. How we judge competence based on job titles instead of character. Keller stood. Commander Vance, I can't undo what happened today, but I can ensure it leads to meaningful change. I'm implementing mandatory respect and inclusion training for all personnel. I'm creating formal channels for contractors to report mistreatment. And I'm making your story, with your permission, a teaching moment for this entire command. Jess stood as well. You have my permission, ma'am. If my humiliation can prevent someone else's, then it wasn't wasted. Webb gathered his papers. I need your decision on assignment by tomorrow morning. But Reaper, whatever you choose, know this. You've served with honor. You've sacrificed more than most people can imagine. And you've handled today's situation with more grace than anyone could expect. Your team would be proud. Jess' breath caught. 13 faces flashed through her mind. Staff Sergeant Donnelly, Sergeant Torres, Chief Whitaker, all of them, always with her. Thank you, sir. Webb left. Reeves followed. Keller moved to the door, then paused. Commander, take the rest of the day. Rest. Process. Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps. Yes, ma'am. The room cleared, except for Cho and Briggs. The young petty officer looked at Jess with something like awe. Commander, can I ask you something? Of course. Why didn't you just tell them from the start? Why let it go on? Jess smiled, sad, tired. Because for 8 months, I was just Jess, not Night Reaper, not Lieutenant Commander, just a woman doing a job. I wanted to keep that for as long as I could. Briggs stood. For what it's worth, Commander, I never saw rank when I looked at you. I saw someone who moved like she'd seen things, done things, survived things. He offered his hand. Would be an honor to serve alongside you, however you choose to serve. Jess shook his hand. Thank you, Master Chief. They left her alone finally. Jess sat in the quiet conference room, looked at her reflection in the dark tablet screen, saw herself in uniform, ribbons she'd earned, rank she'd bled for. She pulled the dog tags from under her shirt. 3 tags. Standard 2 plus 1 black tag.
Tag. Coded. The third tag read TR5 JSOC. Task restricted. Level 5, Joint Special Operations Command. She was Night Reaper. Had always been Night Reaper. The question was whether she could be something else, too. 2 days later, Admiral Keller's office was crowded. Commander Bradley Hutchinson stood at attention before her desk. Nash, Stone, and Carson flanked him. All 4 in dress uniforms. All 4 looked like they hadn't slept. Keller held 4 identical folders. Gentlemen, I've reviewed the incident reports, watched the footage, read statements from 17 witnesses. The conclusions are not favorable. She opened the first folder. Commander Hutchinson, you violated 3 direct regulations regarding civilian personnel treatment. You authorized unauthorized weapons handling. You physically grabbed a service member without cause. You used your position to coerce compliance through threats. Hutchinson stared at the wall behind her. Yes, ma'am. Your formal letter of reprimand is being entered into your permanent record. You're forfeiting 2 months' pay. You're removed from promotion consideration for 2 years minimum. You'll complete 40 hours of leadership retraining. And, effective immediately, you're reassigned to Naval Logistics Command San Diego in an administrative, non-leadership capacity. His jaw tightened. 22 years of service. A promising career. Gone in 90 minutes of bad judgment. Do you have anything to say, Commander? No, ma'am. I accept the consequences. Keller turned to the others. Lieutenant Nash, Lieutenant Carson, Petty Officer Stone. You participated in sustained harassment of a superior officer. The fact that you didn't know her rank doesn't excuse your behavior. You would have treated any civilian contractor the same way. All 3 shifted uncomfortably. Written reprimands in your records, mandatory training,
30 days base community service working alongside civilian contractors. You'll report to Base Facilities Management at 0600 tomorrow." Carson spoke quietly. "Yes, ma'am." "You're dismissed." "Except you, Commander Hutchinson. We're not finished." The 3 lieutenants left. Hutchinson remained at attention. Keller stood, walked around her desk. "Bradley, I've known you for 6 years. You're intelligent, competent. You graduated top of your class at the Naval Academy. So I need to understand what happened in that range." Hutchinson's composure cracked slightly. "I don't have an excuse, ma'am." "I'm not asking for an excuse. I'm asking for understanding." Long pause. Then Hutchinson's shoulders sagged. "I've never seen combat. 22 years of service. Never deployed to a combat zone. Every SEAL I work with has combat experience. Real experience. And I'm supposed to lead them while knowing I've never faced what they've faced." Keller listened without interrupting. "When Commander Vance showed knowledge of weapons systems, it threatened me. If a civilian contractor knew more than I did, what did that say about me? So I pushed. Needed to prove she was fake. Needed to prove I belonged." He looked down. "I was wrong. About everything." "Yes."
You were. Keller returned to her desk. "But recognizing that is the first step. You'll have 2 years to become the officer you should have been. Don't waste them." "I won't, man." Dismissed. Hutchinson left. The door closed behind him. 3 hours later, Jess stood outside the same office. She'd been summoned. Still not sure if she was in trouble or being offered the instructor position. The door opened. Keller gestured her inside. "Commander Vance, come in. We have visitors." Inside, Nash, Stone, and Carson stood awkwardly near the window. They snapped to attention when Jess entered. "At ease," Jess said, automatically. "Old habits." Keller moved to her desk. "These 3 asked permission to speak with you privately. I told them I'd allow it only if you agreed." Jess looked at the men who'd humiliated her, saw shame on their faces, genuine regret. She could refuse, could make them live with that guilt unanswered. But she'd spent 19 months carrying guilt for 13 deaths that weren't her fault. She knew what that weight felt like. "I'll hear what they have to say." Keller nodded. "I'll be right outside." She left, closing the door behind her. Silence stretched. Nash spoke first. "Commander, I need to apologize. Not because I was ordered to, because I was wrong. Completely, inexcusably wrong." "We all were," Stone added. "We judged you based on your job, based on your appearance. We didn't see you as a person worth respecting." Carson stepped forward. "Ma'am, I live-streamed your humiliation to thousands of people. I made you entertainment. I can't take that back. But I want you to know I deleted every video I had. And I posted the full story, the truth about who you are, about what we did." Jess studied them. Saw sincerity. Saw young men who'd made terrible choices and were genuinely trying to be better. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you treat me that way?" Nash answered. "Because I graduated BUDS but never saw combat. Every evaluation says the same thing. Good technical skills, poor judgment. I wanted to prove I was more than that. Easier to tear you down than build myself up." Stone. "I've had 2 deployments with 0 combat action. I resent that. Feel cheated of some experience everyone else has. I took that resentment out on someone I perceived as weak." Carson. "I'm an admiral's son. I've coasted on my father's reputation my whole career. Deep down, I know I haven't earned my position. When you showed knowledge I didn't have, it exposed that. I lashed out." Jess walked to the window. Looked out at the base. Sailors walking. Contractors working. Everyone playing their part in a machine bigger than themselves. "I'm going to tell you what my team leader told me when I was a junior officer," she said. "Your insecurities are not other people's problems. Your need for validation doesn't justify cruelty. And if you can't respect people regardless of their rank or position, you have no business leading anyone." All 3 nodded. "But," Jess continued, "recognizing your mistakes is important. Most people never get there. You 3 did. That matters." She turned to face them. "I accept your apologies. Now prove you've repented."
They learned something. Treat every contractor, every cook, every maintenance worker like they're a 4-star general, because you never know who they are, who they were, what they've survived. We will, ma'am, Nash said. I promise. Don't promise me. Promise yourselves. And promise every person you encounter going forward. They left. Humbled. Changed. Maybe. Keller returned. That was generous. That was necessary. They're young. They can still become better. And Hutchinson? Jess considered. He came to my quarters this morning, before you summoned me. Knocked on the door, asked if he could apologize in person. What did you say? I let him. He stood in my doorway and apologized for 10 minutes. Broke down crying. Said he'd spent his whole career feeling like an imposter. That he was so afraid of being exposed as inadequate that he attacked anyone who threatened that narrative. Keller sat on the edge of her desk. What did you tell him? I told him that feeling inadequate doesn't make him inadequate. That 22 years of service matters, even without combat. That leadership isn't about being the toughest person in the room. It's about bringing out the best in others. Jess paused. Then I told him he failed that standard badly, but he could still recover if he chose to. You're too kind to them. Maybe. Or maybe I know what it's like to make mistakes that cost everything. To live with guilt that never completely fades. They don't need my hatred. They need to become better. Hatred doesn't accomplish that. Keller pulled out a document. I've been authorized to offer you the instructor position formally. Special Operations Liaison to Naval Special Warfare Command. You'd develop curriculum, train candidates, advise leadership. No combat deployments, no team leadership unless you choose it. And if I want to keep doing maintenance work sometimes, then you keep doing maintenance work. I'll assign you an office, but you can use it or not as you see fit. The goal is keeping you serving in whatever capacity helps you heal. Jess took the document, read it. There's a ceremony mentioned here. Public recognition. Yes, you've earned commendations that were classified. Now that your identity is public, those commendations can be formally presented. The ceremony is optional. Your choice. I don't want a ceremony. I understand. But Commander, there are 50 civilian contractors on this base who've been treated poorly for years. They need to see that their service matters, that they matter. Your story can help them. Jess hadn't considered that. How many contractors? 53. Maintenance, food service, logistics, admin support. Most have been here for years. Most have stories of disrespect. One is a former Marine who lost his leg in Fallujah. Works in supply now, gets treated like he's invisible. That hit hard. I'll do the ceremony, but not for me, for them. Good. It's scheduled for Friday, 1400 hours, base theater. Keller extended her hand. Welcome to your new assignment, Commander. They shook. Jess left the office, found Cho waiting in the hallway. How did it go? The young petty officer? Officer asked. I'm staying, instructor position. Cho smiled. Genuinely happy. That's good. The base needs you. They walked together across the compound, past groups of sailors who recognized Jess now. Some nodded respectfully, some whispered, some stared. Does it bother you? Cho asked. Being recognized? Yes, but I'm learning it's part of this, part of moving forward. Jess paused outside the facilities building. Can I ask you something? Of course, ma'am. Why did you defend me? You barely knew me. You disobeyed a direct order from your commander. Cho thought about it. My grandmother was a housekeeper at Pearl Harbor during World War II. She was Japanese-American. Right after the attack, people treated her terribly, accused her of being a spy, a traitor. She kept cleaning anyway, kept serving. Years later, someone discovered she'd been reporting suspicious activity to base security for months before the attack. She'd tried to help, but nobody listened because she was just a housekeeper. She looked at Jess. When I saw Commander Hutchinson treating you that way, I saw my grandmother. Saw someone being dismissed because of their job instead of being valued for who they were. I couldn't stay silent. Jess felt tears forming, blinked them back. Your grandmother sounds like an amazing woman. She was. She taught me that dignity doesn't come from titles. It comes from how you treat people when you have the power to hurt them. They stood in comfortable silence. Then Briggs approached with Hayes. "Commander," Briggs said, "we've been organizing something. Wanted to run it by you first." "What kind of something?" Hayes pulled out his phone, showed her a document. "A new training module. We're calling it Operational Humility. It teaches recognition of skills in unexpected places, cognitive bias awareness, respect regardless of position. It's based on what happened to you," Briggs added. "With your permission, we'd make it mandatory for all SEAL candidates. Use your story as the case study." Jess read the curriculum outline. Comprehensive, thoughtful, exactly what was needed. "You have my permission, but I want to be involved in teaching it." "We were hoping you'd say that," Hayes said. "First class starts Monday. 140 SEAL candidates. We'd like you to give the opening lecture." "I'll be there." Friday arrived. The base theater was packed. 400 personnel. 53 civilian contractors seated in the front rows. Media cameras in the back despite protests. This story had gone national. Nobody could stop that now. Admiral Keller stood at the podium. "We're here to recognize extraordinary service that was hidden by necessity and revealed by circumstance. Commander Jessica Vance, please come forward." Jess walked to the stage. She wore her dress uniform. Every ribbon earned. Every medal paid for in blood and sacrifice and 19 hours defending the dead. Keller read the citations. The Legion of Merit for Sustained Excellence, the Navy Commendation Medal, the Joint Service Achievement Medal, each one representing operations that couldn't be fully described, missions that remained classified. When the ceremony ended, Keller addressed the crowd. "Commander Vance spent 8 months cleaning our buildings. Some of you walked past her every day. Some of you probably didn't notice her at all. She chose that work. She chose invisibility. And when that invisibility was stripped away, she chose grace over revenge." She gestured to the contractors in the front row. "These men and women keep this base functioning. They matter. Their work matters. If nothing else comes from this situation, let it be this. See people, all people. Respect people, all people. Because you never know who they are or what they've survived." Applause filled the theater. Genuine, sustained. Jess stood at the podium, unscripted, unprepared, but needing to say something. "My team died 19 months ago. 13 of the best people I've ever known. For months after, I couldn't function, couldn't lead, couldn't hold a weapon without seeing their faces. I came here to disappear, to find some way to keep serving that didn't require me to be Night Reaper anymore." Her voice strengthened. "What happened 2 days ago was horrible, but it taught me something. I can't hide from who I was, can't run from what I've done, but I can choose who I become next. I can use 12 years of experience to help others, can honor my team by making sure their sacrifice continues to mean something." She looked at the contractors. "You keep this place running. Without you, none of this works. Thank you for your service, for your patience, for continuing to show up even when people don't see you." She stepped down. The applause was deafening. Later, outside, the former Marine who worked supply approached. Prosthetic leg visible. 38 years old. 10 years since Fallujah. "Commander, I just wanted to say thank you. I've worked here 5 years, never been acknowledged. Today was the first time anyone with rank looked at me like I mattered." Jess shook his hand. "What's your name?" "Daniel. Daniel Wright. Corporal before." "Corporal Wright, your service matters. Then and now. Don't let anyone tell you different." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "Semper Fi, ma'am. Semper Fi, Marine." 6 months passed. Jess stood before 140 SEAL candidates in the base theater. She wore her working uniform, lieutenant commander insignia clearly visible, but over it, gray coveralls, unzipped, hanging from her waist. The symbolism was intentional. She was both. Instructor and maintainer. Commander and janitor. Night Reaper and Jessica Vance. Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Commander Vance. Some of you saw the video. Most of you have heard the story. Today, I'm going to explain why what happened should never have happened, and why it happens every single day anyway. She clicked to the first slide. A photo of herself in coveralls, cleaning brass casings, taken by Carson before he understood who she was. This is cognitive bias, the assumption that job title equals competence, that appearance equals capability, that rank equals worth. She clicked again. Photo of herself in full tactical gear, face obscured, weapon raised. Afghanistan 4 years ago. Same person, different context.
Our brain makes instant judgments based on limited information. That's normal. That's survival instinct from 10,000 years of evolution. What separates good operators from bad ones is recognizing that instinct and overriding it. A hand raised, young SEAL candidate, maybe 23. Ma'am, how were we supposed to know you were special operations? You were dressed as a janitor. You weren't supposed to know. That's the point. The question isn't how you identify hidden operators. The question is why you think it's acceptable to treat janitors poorly in the first place. Silence. Uncomfortable shifting. Jess walked to the edge of the stage. Let me tell you about Corporal Daniel Wright, former Marine, lost his leg in Fallujah defending a hospital from insurgent attack, saved 14 civilians, received a Bronze Star. Now he works in supply here. For 5 years, officers walked past him daily, never acknowledged him, never thanked him, never saw him. She clicked to another photo. Wright in his Marine uniform, dress blues, medal on his chest. Same person, different context. He was worth your respect in this uniform, but somehow not worth your respect in supply services? More uncomfortable silence. She was pushing hard. Good. This course is called Operational Humility. Over the next 3 days, you'll complete exercises designed to destroy your assumptions. You'll work alongside contractors, you'll be evaluated by them, and you'll learn that competence doesn't wear a uniform. The training was intensive. Day 1, candidates worked maintenance details supervised by civilian contractors. Day 2, they performed food service under the guidance of cafeteria workers. Day 3, they completed administrative tasks alongside logistics personnel. At the end of each day, the contractors evaluated them, not on physical strength or tactical skill, on attitude, on respect, on how they treated people they perceived as beneath them. The failure rate was 73% the first iteration. By the 6th iteration, it dropped to 18%. The culture was changing, slowly, painfully, but changing. Jess found her rhythm. 3 days a week she taught, 2 days she consulted on training protocols, and every Saturday morning she cleaned the range, collected brass, mopped floors, did the work that kept her grounded. Young sailors watched in confusion at first. A lieutenant commander mopping floors? But after a few weeks, some started asking if they could help, started understanding that no work was beneath them if it needed doing. Cho was promoted to Petty Officer First Class. In her promotion ceremony, she thanked Jess publicly. Commander Vance taught me that standing up for what's right is always worth it, even when it costs you. She showed me that courage isn't just about combat. It's about defending people who can't defend themselves. Hayes developed the Operational Humility curriculum into a full program. It was adopted by 3 other SEAL bases, then by Army Special Forces, then by Marine Raiders. The story of Night Reaper became required reading at the Naval Academy. Carson kept his promise. He posted the full story with Jess. His video essay about cognitive bias and respect had been viewed 4.7 million times. The comments section became a forum for veterans and civilians to share their own stories of being underestimated. Nash, Stone, and Carson completed their community service. All 3 requested to continue working with contractors even after their punishment ended. Nash eventually transferred to Base Services Coordination. Stone became a liaison between military and civilian personnel.
Carson started a nonprofit supporting veteran contractors. Hutchinson served his 2 years in logistics, quietly, humbly. At the end, he requested a meeting with Jess. They met at a coffee shop off base, neutral ground. He'd aged, gray at his temples now, lines around his eyes. "I'm retiring," he said. 24 years, pension and benefits, I'm done. "What will you do?" Jess asked. "I've been volunteering at a homeless shelter. A lot of veterans there. People who fell through cracks. People who get ignored because they're homeless instead of being seen as human beings who need help." He stirred his coffee. "Turns out I'm good at seeing people when I actually try." Jess nodded. "That's good work. I wanted to thank you for not destroying me, for giving me the chance to become better. I wasted it for 2 years, felt sorry for myself. Then I remembered what you said, that guilt doesn't make me inadequate, that I could still recover if I chose to." He looked up. "I chose to. I'm glad." They sat in comfortable silence. Then Hutchinson stood, extended his hand. "I hope you find peace, Commander. You deserve it more than anyone I know. I'm working on it, every day." He left. Jess watched him go, felt a weight lift slightly. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement that people could change, that redemption was possible with genuine effort. Her PTSD didn't disappear. The nightmares continued. 3 in the morning, she'd wake gasping, seeing faces, hearing gunfire, feeling the weight of 13 bodies she couldn't save. But she'd built a support network now. Briggs checked on her regularly. Hayes invited her to family dinners. Cho texted encouraging messages. The contractors had adopted her as one of their own, protecting her fiercely when media tried to intrude. She attended therapy twice weekly. The sessions helped, slowly. Increments so small she barely noticed day to day. But over months, the nightmares decreased from every night to 3 times a week, then twice. The flashbacks became less frequent. The hypervigilance eased slightly. She could hold weapons now without panic attacks, could teach shooting without dissociating, could discuss tactics without seeing dead teammates. Healing wasn't linear. Some days were harder than others, but she was surviving. More than surviving, she was living. One evening, 9 months after the incident, Jess visited Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery, the military cemetery in San Diego, 20 minutes from base. Her team wasn't buried there. They were scattered across the country, laid to rest near their families. But she'd created a memorial anyway, a stone bench overlooking the ocean. 13 names. Is engraved. Staff Sergeant Mike Donnelly, Sergeant First Class Rebecca Torres, Chief Petty Officer James Whitaker. All of them. Every single one. She sat on the bench, placed 13 challenge coins on the armrest, 1 for each, like she did every month. "I'm still here," she whispered to the empty air. "Still fighting, still trying to honor you. I think I'm getting better at it. I hope you'd be proud." The ocean wind carried her words away. No answers came. They never did. But she felt lighter anyway, felt connected to something larger than her grief. Briggs appeared at the edge of the cemetery. He'd followed her, not intrusively, just making sure she wasn't alone. She waved him over. He sat beside her, looked at the names. "You talk to them?" "Every time I visit. Doesn't change anything, but it helps. Grief is like that. Doesn't make logical sense, but it's necessary anyway." They sat in silence, watching the sun set over the Pacific. 2 warriors finding peace in the presence of the fallen. Back at base, evening shift. Jess changed into coveralls, grabbed her cleaning cart, headed to the range where everything had changed 9 months ago. A young SEAL candidate was there, cleaning his weapon after qualification. He looked up, saw her, snapped to attention. "Ma'am, you don't need to clean. We have contractors." "I know, but this work matters. Every job matters. Remember that." The candidate hesitated. "Can I help? I'd like to learn proper maintenance from you." Jess smiled. The first time in months it reached her eyes. "Sure. You know how to properly clean a weapons bay?" No, ma'am. Then I'll teach you. They worked together, commander and candidate, sharing the labor that kept the base functioning, the labor that connected Jess to who she'd been, while allowing her to become someone new. Her phone buzzed. Restricted number. She answered. Reaper, it's Webb. I need your expertise. Not operational, consulting. We have a situation where someone like you could provide insight. What kind of situation? Female operator facing harassment in a special operations unit. Command doesn't know how to handle it sensitively. Thought you might have perspective. Jess looked at the candidate cleaning beside her. At the range where she'd been humiliated and validated in equal measure. At the life she'd built from the ashes of the one she'd lost. Send me the details. I'll help. I knew you would. That's why you're Night Reaper. You don't just survive. You protect others from going through what you did. The call ended. Jess returned to cleaning. The candidate watched her with something like reverence. Ma'am, can I ask you something? Go ahead. The video, the way Commander Hutchinson treated you, that must have been horrible. How did you not just quit, walk away? Jess considered the question. Because quitting would have meant they won. Would have meant my team died for nothing. Would have meant I let pain turn me into someone I didn't want to be. She set down her mop. Everyone faces moments where they can choose bitterness or growth. I chose growth. It's harder, but it's worth it. The candidate nodded, understanding. Maybe, or at least beginning to. They finished cleaning. Jess walked across the base toward her quarters. Sailors she passed offered respectful nods. Contractors waved. Commanding officers saluted. She was visible now. Couldn't hide anymore. Didn't want to. She was Night Reaper. Was Lieutenant Commander Jessica Vance. Was JSOC operator and instructor and janitor and survivor and teacher and student and healer and wounded and strong and vulnerable and everything in between. She was enough. In her quarters, she pulled out a journal. Webb had suggested it in their last conversation. Write down the wins, the moments of progress, the days that didn't hurt quite as much. Today's entry: taught class, helped candidate understand respect, visited the memorial, accepted new consulting role, cleaned the range without panic attack, smiled genuinely, felt almost normal for 3 consecutive hours. Progress. She closed the journal, set it beside 13 challenge coins on her nightstand, one for each team member she carried with her always. Her phone buzzed again. Text from Cho. Dinner tomorrow? Found a new Thai place off base. My treat. Jess replied, sounds perfect. See you at 1800. She changed into civilian clothes, sat on her bed. For the first time in 19 months, she let herself think about the future instead of the past. Maybe she'd teach for 5 years. Maybe she'd eventually return to operations in an advisory capacity. Maybe she'd retire and work full-time in veteran services. Maybe she'd write a book. Maybe she'd just keep cleaning ranges on Saturday mornings and finding peace in simple work. The possibilities stretched ahead. Not predetermined, not constrained by who she'd been. Open. Outside her window, the base continued its eternal rhythm. Training, preparation, service. Thousands of people working towards something larger than themselves. Jess was part of that again. Not invisible anymore, but not defined solely by her legend either. She was just a person, flawed and healing and trying, same as everyone else. And somehow, that was enough. The story of Night Reaper had gone viral. Millions of views, thousands of think pieces, debates about military culture and respect and cognitive bias. But for Jess, it wasn't about the story. It was about the lesson. The reminder that everyone you meet is fighting battles you can't see. That dignity doesn't come from titles. That the person cleaning your office or serving your food or maintaining your equipment deserves the same respect as a 4-star general. Not because they might secretly be a Tier 1 operator, but because they're human, and that should always be enough. If this story impacted you, Remember it the next time you interact with someone in a service position. See them, thank them, treat them with the respect every human deserves. Not because of what they might be, but because of what they are. People. Just people. Worthy of dignity regardless of their job title or rank or appearance. Commander Jessica Vance was still watching, still serving, still teaching that lesson every single day. Night Reaper hadn't disappeared. She'd just evolved into something better.